There's something about painting that I find to be very magical, almost alchemical. This idea of taking some base material or raw material like oil paint and mixing it up and putting it on a support on a canvas and transforming this into an image, into a bird, into an animal or a person. It's just, there's something that's really fascinating about that. I do find it a little bit difficult to describe my work because it does not fit into what most people's preconception of things are. You know, it's not a landscape, it's not just a painting of an animal or a person. So I usually will describe myself as a painter. I use oil paint and mixed media. There's collage elements, there's people, there's elements of realism, but there's also elements of, you know, these other things that sort of intrude into the picture. There's something about animals, I think, that intrigued me. Sometimes I think in some respects they're kind of a stand-in for, say, people or for myself. I don't know that I can say that in every painting, but there is some connection, I think, probably that I feel anyway, with the animals, and I think it's, you know, to a certain respect it resonates with other people as well. This is a painting of a Harris hawk. That was a photo that I had taken at the Minnesota State Fair. I like to work with my own photos when I can. I have a computer screen that I'll work from. Usually I'll, you know, pull the image up that I'm working from. I find that works a lot easier than trying to print out something on a piece of paper. Primarily I work with oil paints. Also I'll use some mineral spirits to kind of thin the paint down. I get kind of I get a lot of people asking me if it's watercolor from time to time, but I kind of like that ability of oil paint to have kind of that, you know, nature of being more opaque and then also kind of thin and transparent. The materials that I use for the collage are just a lot of different things that I've accumulated over the years, like maps, tissue paper, prints that I print out myself, templates that I'll use and use spray paint. Almost any manner of paper that I've found, I've probably tried at some time or another. A lot of times I've been asked by people like, well, why don't you do that first instead of putting it on after you started painting? And it has to do with just kind of getting a feeling for the painting, and once I've got something started, it's easier for me to kind of see what type of elements that I actually want to put in. The decision of where to put elements, I don't know, it's kind of one of those things where I'll just try it. Sometimes if I'm doing collage, I can actually take something and put it down and kind of move it around and see what I think. Sometimes it's putting it down and yeah, it works, no it doesn't, paint over it, you know, so it's an organic process. One of the ways that I work is I have probably like anywhere from 5 to 10 paintings that I'm working on at, you know, any given time. And I find that actually works pretty well because then I don't have to wait for a layer of oil paint to dry before I'm, you know, ready to finish it. And a lot of times one idea that I'm working on one painting, you know, will lend itself or cross-pollinate itself to another painting. So I find it really refreshing to be able to work on, you know, several paintings at one time. A couple of years ago, I started doing some work that was really influenced, I think, by seeing these old weathered billboards. And I found it really fascinating to see a billboard where, you know, you've got several layers that have been peeling, and so you've got like this top layer that's an ad for one thing, and then there's some bottom layer poking through. I think some of that idea is still, you know, perhaps influencing me. And it's something that's kind of interesting because you've got this new meaning that's sort of created, or these new ideas perhaps that are coming through the incorporation of type. And like when I include type, I usually fragment it, and I think that's part of that idea. I'm trying to not make something that's necessarily readable, but to evoke some kind of an emotion or feeling or, you know, that fragmented nature. The thing with incorporating text or flat things, but particularly text in a painting, is that we have a left brain and a right brain. And we use our right brain to look at images and see, pictures around us, and then we use our left brain to read text. And so it's almost like you have to use one part of your brain to see one part of the painting and another part of the brain to see the image. With the collage process, there's a certain amount of chance and risk that's involved, and so, sometimes things work out and sometimes not. When they work out, sometimes you get something maybe that's even better than you're expecting, or accidents happen, and, sometimes those accidents are really cool. I feel very fortunate to be able to come into a studio space and to just open up a tube of oil paint and start painting. Just the process of being in the studio, kind of losing oneself, finding oneself at the same time, it's great.
Minnesota Original is made possible by the State Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund and the citizens of Minnesota.